So following on from my post about the Bowman taps and how I made them, I thought I would attempt to make a small video, as there seemed to be some interest in how I did that. Obviously these are handmade, they're not done on a lathe or anything, so they are what they are, but if people find them useful, then perhaps they might like to have a go. So on the table at the moment is virtually all the tools that I use to make these little taps. As you can see, you need a blowtorch, a cordless drill with there's a 1.5mm drill bit in there that I use, a small rubber mallet, a small hammer, pin hammer, a pair of calipers, not strictly necessary but they do come in handy, a black felt pen, some small files. I'm not sure where I got them. I got a feeling they was out of a Christmas cracker, if I'm honest, but they're very useful, and a small vise, which again is not strictly necessary for this part, the second part of making these taps, but I do find quite useful. I have a large vise that's not shown here that I use to bend the metal in, so I'll show that in a separate thing in a moment. The only other thing that I haven't put on there is a very small nail, just to make a very slight dent in the brass used to make these taps. So on the table now is the 4mm brass bar that I used to make these taps. An original Bowman tap which is on the left, and the latest one I made which is on the right. There are clearly differences, but they don't look too bad at all. I'll just quickly show you them in situ so you can see what they look like actually on the engine. So here they are fitted to the M122. The one in front is the original and the one behind is the one I made, and as you can see they don't really look that much difference. They're both fully operable, not that I ever use them really, but they can be used, and I think they look pretty good together. So to start, as you can see, I've placed in my large vise the brass bar so that the piece of bar held by the vise is just slightly over the total length of the bottom half of the tap. You want to allow yourself 3 or 4mm longer so that you can file it back and make adjustments as you need to. So I'll just start my blowtorch. And I heat the bar up now until I get it just below a cherry red colour. It's difficult to see in this light. Once I get it to just below a nice cherry red, I turn the blowtorch off and just leave the bar to cool down naturally. So I won't bore you with making you watch the whole of this heat up, and I'll come back to this once it's cooled back down again. So now the bar's cooled down, I'm just going to show you how I bend it. So literally I just bend it over literally with my hands and use the rubber mallet. You can see it bends fairly easily, and then I use the original tap to make sure that the bend and that is almost perfect like that. So that's it. That's how easily that bent into shape. So that's all I need to do to that. So we remove that from there, and I'll just quickly show you again. If I hold the original tap, that's really all you're looking for, is that same bend, if you can see that. So now we go back in the other room. So guys, by holding the original tap up against the brass bar where the bend is, as you can see there, I'm using that black felt pen. I've marked out where the centre thinner piece is. I tend to err on the fractionally smaller size purely because once you start filing by hand, you can easily over enlarge it. so you just have to be careful. Try and keep the bottom and top lines fairly straight as you go around the bar to give you a good guide. If you can see that, I'm not sure. A good guide as to where it is that you're going to be filing. And then once you've done that, you can either cut this bar down and handle it as a smaller piece, or use it like this as a whole piece. I tend to start off like this and then cut it when I go down further. I tend to start with this little file here. It's like a little triangular three-sided file, and what I find it's good for is that if you actually use the edge of that against the top edge and bottom edge, you can get this this little shelf edge here on the bottom and top, or you can start to get that. So I'll make a start on this now. I very often use this little vise here because I find it gives me some solid when it's virtually closed. It gives me something sometimes a bit more solid to file against, like that. So sometimes I'll do it like that, and sometimes I'll just stand here and do it freehand. Depends, you know, you work the way is best for you. So I'll just make a start so you can see what it is I do. So I tend to hold it like that, and I'll start on this edge, trying to keep the edge straight, and I'll file into that piece there. No need to go mad, just start filing gently down, trying to keep the edge straight across the bar if you can. And then once I get a start like that, then I'll start to move around the bar, and I'll do the top edge here. Like that, and then I'll start working my way around the bar in different places. So there, I'll try and keep a fairly straight edge, and you can see that it's quite difficult for me to hold this and show you on the camera as well, but you get the gist of it. You just keep working your way around. Don't go too deep because it files away a lot quicker than you expect it to. I'll do the top edge there, and then what I do to get that, like that little ledge, as I said, that you get on these, on the original, I tend to lean that against it, dig in a bit, and do that, which starts to give you that little ledge. But be careful you don't go too far; it goes down very quickly. So I'll get on with this going around. I also use this, the round one, to do the underside. It gives you that curve a lot easier, so I use that one as well. It needs to be done fairly slowly and a little bit at a time, because you can very easily overfile these. So I'll carry on with that, and when I get down a bit further I'll show you the progress. So it's only been about 10 minutes since I turned the camera off, and I've got it in the vise. I don't know if you can see that, I hope you can. I've got it down so far. It's at this stage, to me, it always looks not very good, but if you persevere from here and just very gently, not too many files at a time, just gradually work on the profiles of each edge to try and get that nice rounded look, using these two little files. Gradually it does come a lot better than that and looks a lot better than that. So I'll finish that off now. As I say, it's only must take about 15-20 minutes in total to do this bit. So I'll finish it off and then I'll show you it again. So there it is now, filed down on that centre section. I've just put a bit of masking tape against the real one so that you can kind of see how similar they are. Obviously it's not perfect. You can see the file marks, but a lot of that can be polished out. Marked a black line where I'm going to cut it just below the length of the original. Don't go too far down because you've got to drill back down that with a cordless drill, so it's difficult enough without having to travel too far down a piece of brass. So I'm going to now cut that along that black line, and then I'll come back. So I don't know if you can see those two taps. I've cut the brass down, and I also took the opportunity to cut the handle down and shape it And I have to confess here that I do use my belt sander to sand those down, but providing you cut them down close to what the end size is going to be, there's no reason why you can't finish that off with the files. So that's how it's looking at the moment. You can see the bottom half of the tap is longer. It's left deliberately longer for a very good reason, because as you shape down, you may find as you near the end that you want to just shave a little bit more off of the end there. So then what I do now is I hold the two taps side by side at roughly the same height, like so, and I mark where that hole is going to be with a felt pen. I don't mark the bottom because it's almost impossible to mark the bottom centrally, so you're better off doing that with a little nail and a hammer a little bit later. So there they are now, if you can see that. And so I'm just going to mark where the hole should be, which is roughly there, not very clear. It's roughly there. And so I'm going to set this up in this little vise, and then I'll show you what I do before I start drilling. I've set it up in this little vise. It's really important to keep it straight and level, and obviously keep this as straight as you possibly can as well, otherwise it's going to involve you trying to bend this back into shape. All I use is a little nail and a little pin hammer, and I literally just put the nail exactly where I want the hole to go, and just gently, very gently, try and give it a little, just a little mark, rub off the black. It just gives the drill something to bite on. And now it's just a case really now, make sure that's all in there really tight. It's just a case with a very steady hand is to drill a little hole about halfway down through this. Now I've found it's so easy to go straight through. It's not the end of the world if you do, because once you've drilled the hole back from the bottom, you can always insert a very thin piece of cocktail stick in there and just drop a little bit of solder in the back hole and file it away, and you don't even see it, and it works well. But obviously you want to try and avoid that if you can. So I'll try and do this bit while the camera's rolling, give you all a laugh. So I'll try and find that little indentation, and then just very carefully try and keep the drill as straight as you can. And don't do that, which is what I've just done. So continuing on, before I went and snapped my drill bit, the hole had started, so I'll just carry on and very carefully. I think that's probably going to be deep enough, guys. I'm just going to take the drill bit out and just see how far in I've gone. So yeah, that's not going to be very far away. So now we'll just release that. And this is a slightly more difficult bit. I tend to keep that hole where I can see it on the front edge there and get this in as straight as I can. The main difficulty with this bottom edge is getting it to stay central when you start, and then keeping it central as you go down through the shaft. I'll just put the drill bit back in. It's pretty central. So again, I'm just going to try and give myself a fighting chance with this by getting the nail and just trying to make a slight central indentation in this brass. You can't do much clearly, but it does help to give it a little start. There is a nice little tiny indentation in that now. And now it's a steady hand to try and keep this drill bit as central as you can until you hit the hole at the bottom. I mean, I might not have gone deep enough to meet up, but we'll give it a go and we'll see. I think I'll stand up for this piece. And I'm just going to shorten that drill bit in just a tiny bit. Okay, it's not too bad. Not sure how far in I am. About that far in. It's not miles away. Just going to check it again now. So it's not that far away. Just going to re-lengthen the drill bit just a tad. Let's see where she is now. I mean, she must be almost there, so I'm going to take it out of the vise. I think I can actually see. Just going to see if I can't drill back through that a little bit to connect up. I think I just really need to be a fraction more through on the side hole, so I'm just going to put it back in, hold it in place, and just gently go down a bit more. Not sure what happened there. I think it went through. Let's have a look. Yeah, I believe that's it. If I push the drill bit in there, yeah, and I can see the drill bit coming right through. You won't be able to see that on the camera, but it is well through there. And well through there, and it hasn't come out the back edge. So it's drilled through the bottom, and it's drilled through on that side there. All you need to do now, guys, really, is to shape that down into the same shape as that, and I've found that you don't go any higher than the hole down when you're shaping down. Don't file any of this because it will drop straight through the hole on the engine. You need that top edge, that top half above the hole to be that thickness, just shape down from there to the edge. And that I do use these little files to do. It doesn't take very long, and I use the calipers as I go along just to try and gauge what sort of thickness it should be. When it starts off by the hole, it's almost the same thickness as at the top, and at the bottom it's just, as you can, don't know if you can see that, slightly thinner. And when I've got it roughly well, I'll keep dropping it in the engine to try it. And then I just fold the ends over a little bit to match the bottom of the original, and then I just sand it down on my belt sander, or you can just use your files to get the same length. So I'll crack on with that, and I'll show you when it's finished. Actually guys, I thought I would just quickly show you how I hold it to do that filing down. I don't use a belt sander because it's too harsh and takes it down too far. So I'll just have the vise slightly open and I'll rest that in there like that, and then you can just gently turn it around. You can see that. Gently turn it around and come down, concentrating obviously on bringing the bottom half down a lot further, a little bit at a time until you get where you want to be. Don't overdo by the hole, it needs a little bit, it doesn't need very much. You want to concentrate more on bringing it down like this. And as you go along, I suggest that you drop it in your engine, the hole in the oiler on your engine, every now and then to see where you're at, and to see when it fits nicely, and then you can just fold down the edge back down to the right length of the other one. So again, that's about 15-20 minutes on from when I turned the camera off, so that really is the end product there. I mean, the one on the left hand side as you look at is the original, and the other one is the one that I've just done. I mean, clearly, you know, there are some differences and you can see the file marks, but once they're in the engine you can't really tell the difference between the two, and I think that they come out alright. So yeah, that's it then guys. If you want to have a go, give it a go. Thanks for watching. Cheers.